I never imagined my daughter would bring hope to a billionaire's heartbreaking sorrow. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It was a gray morning. The clouds hung low, pregnant with rain. That's when I first saw him. Davian Blackwood. A name cloaked in mystery, a man shrouded by the pain of loss. He stood by his sprawling mansion, gazing into the abyss of his own broken heart. I could see the weight of sorrow trailing behind him like a shadow. His wife, the love of his life, had been gone for a year. A car crash, they said. Just like that, she was ripped away, leaving him hollow. They spoke of his wealth, offshore accounts, luxury cars, and a penthouse overlooking the city, yet all I could see was the desolation in his eyes. Those deep-set brows, the quiver in his lips. He was enveloped in silence, a fortress made of grief. I knew him as a ghost in his own life, but what caught my eye was not just his pain, it was my daughter, Lily. She had always been curious, unafraid of the shadows that scared away other children. She found beauty in the oddest of things. An abandoned shoe on the road. A broken clock in the park. And on that fateful day, she ventured closer to the Blackwood estate. With her wild curls bouncing in the wind, she was a ray of light cutting through Davian's eternal storm. When our eyes met, something shifted. It was as if a spark ignited in the air. I watched her approach him, tiny hands outstretched, holding a wilted daisy. It was charmingly ridiculous. A child handing a flower to a somber billionaire. For an instant, the world faded away. I held my breath, my heart racing. Would he reject her? Or would that fragile offering of innocence crack through the armor of his despair? His trembling hands reached out, brushing against her soft palm. The atmosphere thickened. It was electric. My chest tightened, a lump forming in my throat. I could hardly think. The murmurs of onlookers faded into a distant hum. All I saw was that fleeting moment of connection. But then the unexpected happened. Davian's eyes glistened not just from sorrow, but from something else, something like hope. It was a fracture of light in the endless gray. I could hardly fathom it. I glanced around, searching for validation. Was this really happening? My heart hammered in my chest, each beat a desperate prayer for change. Just then, a sudden laugh startled me. A reporter had managed to slip through the garden gate. He captured the scene on his camera, snapping away, the light clicking loudly. The fleeting moment shattered, the spell broken. I felt a wave of fear wash over me, drowning the hopeful glimmer. Would this be twisted into a spectacle? Would Davian retreat again into his fortress? Before I could gather my thoughts, he turned his gaze back to Lily, still clutching the daisy. A flicker of emotion danced on his face, but then, just as quickly, it vanished. What was he thinking? Was there a chance the walls would crumble? Or was this just a brief interlude in his symphony of sorrow? I held my breath, pulled between hope and fear, desperate to know what would happen next. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The days that followed that remarkable moment were a blend of anticipation and fear. Lily would often ask about Davian, her curiosity akin to a moth drawn to a flame. I watched her sprout stories about their imaginary adventures together, a pirate captain and his fearless crew traversing the seas. The innocence of her imagination contrasted sharply with the heaviness that hung in the air at home. I couldn't shake off the lingering unease. What had transpired that day had opened a small window of hope, but the world outside remained unforgiving. As I watched Lily chase the shadows of her own dreams, I was plunged deeper into the abyss of uncertainty. Would Davian allow himself to be drawn into our world? Or was I simply holding on to a fleeting illusion? Then, a week later, another unsettling incident sent ripples through my fragile hope. A story hit the headlines about Davian's estate, twisting the narrative into something sensational. Newspapers published photographs of him with Lily, framing it as a bizarre friendship. Most headlines blared how an unlikely savior had appeared in his life, a child bringing color to his desolation. I felt exposed, as if my daughter was being paraded like a trophy for public consumption. When I broached the topic with Lily, her eyes sparkled with mischief, completely unfazed by the media storm swirling around her new friend. "Mommy, I'm just helping him find his smile. He needs me," she declared, as if it were the simplest thing in the world. That's when the weight of my adult fears clashed violently with her childlike confidence. Could she truly reach him in a way that I couldn't? Would the world allow it? In the midst of this turmoil, a spark of encouragement emerged. Davian reached out, sending a simple text that contained only 2 words, "Thank you." My heart flutter at it was minimal, yet incredibly significant. Maybe, just maybe, he was willing to reconnect and explore the possibility of healing. As if fate were understanding my needs, he invited us over for an afternoon. The air in my home hummed with tension and hope, leaving Lily to spin in playful circles, oblivious to the storm inside me. The Blackwood estate looked different in the warmth of sunset. Golden light poured over the sprawling grounds, casting long shadows that whispered secrets of its history. I took a deep breath as we stepped out of the car, clutching Lily's small hand tightly, feeling an odd blend of excitement and dread. Davian emerged, his posture still heavy but softened by a hint of anticipation in his eyes. "I was hoping you'd come," he said, his voice low and thick with emotion. To my surprise, his gaze lingered on Lily, as if she were a lighthouse in a tempest. "Look. I made you something." Lily beamed, holding up a crude but heartfelt drawing of a sun smiling, surrounded by cheerful stick figures. It was a moment so achingly pure that I felt jealousy tug at me. Why did he deserve this beautiful burst of innocence? As his lips curved into a small smile, an unsettling part of me whispered that maybe this was the moment to express my worries, to urge him not to let the media's narrative define their connection. But just as I prepared to voice my apprehensions, an unexpected sound shattered the tranquility. A sharp voice echoed through the garden, "Davian. Why are you wasting your time with them?" The voice sliced through the air, filled with disdain. A woman stepped into view, her face shadowed by a wide-brimmed hat, her eyes sharp as daggers. "You know what people will say. Don't you care?" The atmosphere shifted, plunging me into tension. I felt the weight of scrutiny bearing down on us yet again. Davian's expression transformed, frustration crossing his features, but Lily remained blissfully unaware of the storm brewing. "Is this why you came here?" The woman pressed, her tone accusing, almost protective. "To play house with a little girl while the world watches?" I locked eyes with Davian, my heart racing. This intrusion threatened to destroy everything we had hoped for. And there it was, the dark reality of a world eager to twist a beautiful moment into something grotesque. As I wrestled with my own fear and helplessness, I wondered if he would pull away. Would he retreat once more into his fortress, leaving Lily behind in the wake of chaos? "Leave us," Davian finally said, his tone firm and unwavering that I felt a flicker of hope ignite in my chest, but it quickly dimmed as the woman's eyes narrowed, her nostrils flaring. "You think this will end well for you?" She shot back, but she took a step back, her presence lingering in the air like a dark cloud. Hope surged through me momentarily until a profound realization struck like lightning. Amid the battle for his heart, a storm was brewing, and I understood that no one, neither Davian, nor Lily, nor I, would emerge unscathed. The tentacles of grief clutched tightly around him, and the vicious nature of the media threatened to rip apart any budding connection we had. Then, just as I thought the worst had passed, Lily, sensing the shift in energy, turned toward Davian with a childlike sincerity. "You don't have to listen to her. You can be happy." In that heartbreaking moment, the chaos danced dangerously close. Would Davian collapse into his sorrow or find the courage to protect this fragile arrangement we were forming? Would we of us get the chance to discover hope, or were we destined to be consumed by fears that soared higher than the sky? And before I could grasp the consequences, I sensed another weight. The ground beneath us felt unsteady. I had only just realized that this was no ordinary invitation for tea, it was an invitation steeped in potential heartbreak. The evening had turned bitterly cold, the warmth from earlier draining away like a setting sun. As the woman retreated into the shadows, I found myself grappling with the palpable tension that hung in the air. I wanted to reach out and comfort Davian, to tether myself to him amidst his uncertainty, but the weight of the moment felt too heavy. Lily, undeterred by the dark atmosphere, was captivated by the sprawling garden. She twirled among the flowers, her laughter abruptly shattering the silence, an innocent note of joy fluttering through the air like a fragile dove. I watched her, torn between admiration and dread, wishing fervently that she could shield Davian from the world's cruel gaze. Davian's attention gradually shifted back to her, a flicker of warmth igniting in his eyes. He knelt down to Lily's level, surprised by her audacity and genuine spirit. "You think I can be happy?" he prompted, both a question and an invitation wrapped in one. "Of course. You just need to smile more," she chirped, her voice bright enough to cut through the lingering darkness. "And they'll help you." The unshakable conviction in her words struck a chord deep within him, and for a moment, I dared to believe that maybe she was right. Was it truly that simple? As the fading daylight continued washing over us, Davian gave a slow nod, but I could see doubt lingering just beneath the surface of his somber exterior. The ghost of the woman's judgment loomed large, festering in the background, threatening the fragile connection we had started to build. I felt an overwhelming need to protect Lily from the harsh realities around her, to ensure she remained untouched by the cruel whispers of the world. "Davian, can we walk?" I suggested, sensing a desperate urgency to steer the evening away from the confrontation, to create space where he could breathe. He glanced at me, his brows furrowing with contemplation, but finally nodded. As we strolled through the garden, the paths illuminated by flickering solar lights, Lily skipped ahead, weaving between flowers and slipping into her imagination, narrating more tales of adventure in her animated way. I caught Davian's eye. His demeanor, albeit heavy, seemed to soften, and the storm cloud perpetually hovering over his features gave way to flecks of light. "Thank you for coming today," he said softly, the weight of his words wrapped in vulnerability. "I didn't anticipate all of this." He waved a hand vaguely, indicating the malice of the outside world. I could feel the depth of our unspoken fears affecting our exchange. "Lily believes in you." "She believes in this," I said cautiously, my heart racing at the prospect of being too transparent. "But I worry, Davian. There's so much pressure." He sighed, a long exhale that seemed to carry heaves of emotion far beyond this moment. "You don't understand," he replied, his voice low, but it held firmness. "I don't know how to navigate this." "Tell me you don't want to retreat," I urged, desperate for reassurance. "You don't have to let them dictate how you feel about everything." For a moment, his gaze bore into mine, as if weighing the truth behind my words. I knew that behind his hardened exterior lay a man deeply fearful of vulnerability, a fear that had been justified by layers of heartbreak. "I want to," he finally murmured, choked and wavering. "But every time I'm close something pulls me back." A flicker of anger erupted within him, but beneath it, there was a whisper of fear of the unknown, fear of engaging with the light after a prolonged existence in darkness. My heart ached for him, for all the misfortunes life had thrust upon him. In that moment, an unexpected compassion surged within me. "You don't have to do it alone, Davian. We're here." His eyes flicked away, landing on Lily, who was now attempting to catch fireflies, her laughter filling the night air like musical notes. The vision stirred something within him, and for a brief moment, the walls began to crumble. But just as the first beams of healing light began to seep into the cracks of his fortified heart, the universe decided to intervene. A sudden rustle erupted from the tree line as a figure emerged, a tall man with a broad frame, wearing a tailored suit that whispered of authority. My heart sank, recognizing the posture of someone who belonged to the side of judgment, one who could shatter the remaining fragments of peace we had fostered. "Davian. The man called, his harsh voice resonating with command. You need to come back now. This, whatever this is just a distraction. The board will not accept any more delays. A chill ran down my spine, and I glanced at Davian, who was caught between loyalty and burgeoning desire, one foot tethered to the world that demanded his attention, and the other to the fragile heart of a child that seemed so willing to save him from his own despair. Will you answer me? The man pressed, taking a step forward, disdain barely masking the concern in his gaze. Davian's face drained of color, a storm brewing in his eyes. The delicate moment we had been weaving swiftly frayed at the edges, and I felt the ground beneath us tremble. Davian. I whispered urgently, reaching out once more, trying to tether him to this moment of hope where he might choose the light. I could see he was tearing, caught between two worlds, a choice that could redefine him. Would he grasp this fleeting chance, or let it slip away as so many others had? But before he could respond, the man interrupted yet again. This isn't a game. We're running out of time. The finality of the words echoed in the air, a whispering death knell to the budding hope that had taken root that evening. I watched Davian struggle silently, his heart pounding beneath the weight of expectations and potential loss. And then, without realizing it, I felt my body move forward, pleading silently with him to choose wisely. You can find your way back to happiness, Davian. You simply have to take that step. But the shadows shifted, and as I blinked away, a wave of tears welling in my eyes, I realized sometimes hoping for others is a murky path, fraught with uncertainty and foiled by unseen hands waiting to pull away everything you cherish. And just as I opened my mouth to push him further into the light, a realization crashed into me that in this moment of upheaval, I understood that he was wrestling with a duality far more profound than I could fathom. This wasn't merely about saving a flickering connection, it was about battling the tides of personal grief, loneliness, and societal expectations. And as the grip of the man tightened around Davian, I realized that all my fears, the fears that had clutched me tightly for so long, were becoming a reality before my very eyes. Would my daughter's innocence fall victim to a harsh world, leaving both her and Davian vulnerable in the wake of unfathomed judgment? The night was growing darker still, yet from within the shadows, the question loomed large. Who would he become as the last light of hope flickered and threatened to extinguish? The tension in the air became almost symmetrical, a precarious balance of dread and a flickering hope clinging to the edges of our hearts. As the man's presence pressed in on us like fog closing around a ship, I felt the icy grip of fear clamping down on my chest. I couldn't discern whether it was for Davian or for Lily. Davian, please, I urged again, the words tumbling from my lips in a whisper. I searched his eyes, desperate to find a flicker of resolve amidst the uncertainty. The man advanced, his every step radiating authority, the oppressive weight of his intentions casting shadows that threatened to envelop us whole. Do you really think you can just walk away from your responsibilities? The man's disdainful chuckle echoed, slicing through the night's delicate veneer like a jagged knife. As if you can find fulfillment in the trivial pretense of happiness. I saw a flicker of anger ignite in Davian's eyes, but it was quickly swallowed by the shadows of self-doubt. He was still grappling with the remnants of the darkness he carried, and every harsh word was a reminder of the chains of expectation binding him. Lily didn't sense the tension. She danced around the fireflies, capturing their delicate light as if shaking the stars from the night sky. Her laughter rang out, bright against the discord of our reality. Each peal was like a siren's call, urging Davian to recognize the beauty in the choice before him. But did he even know he had a choice? Lily. I called, but tethered to fear, I hesitated, not wanting to pull her from her sanctuary of innocence. Davian's gaze flickered over to her, a struggle taking place within him. Maybe the light in her spirit was piercing through the fog encasing him, igniting something long buried and forgotten. Enough. The man barked, his tone commanding. Your time is limited, Davian. We need your decision now, our futures hinge upon this. No more distractions. What do you want from me? Davian seethed, a spark of defiance igniting in the depths of his eyes. Has it ever mattered to you what I want? Your wants are irrelevant, the man shot back, a look of tempered disgust morphing his features. I have sacrificed too much for you to throw this all away. You will not cost us everything that I in that moment, everything stilled. The air crackled with the weight of unprocessed emotions, years of resentment, obligation, and guilt compressed into a single moment. I could feel Davian's anguish seeping through his clenched fists, mirroring the storm brewing inside of me. Lily's twirling slowed, her innocent laughter coming to a halt. She turned, sensing the shifting winds of tension and confusion. "Davian, don't listen to him," she called out, her voice steady yet sweet, a child's unwavering belief spilling forth. "You are more than what they say." Her words hit Davian like a burst of light against the shuddering dark. He stood, torn between two tides, one pulling him towards the harsh reality dictated by the man and the other drawing him closer to the radiant innocence of a child who believed he could be more. His lips parted, an unspoken yearning bubbling just below the surface. I reached for him, my fingers brushing against his arm, as if I could anchor him back from the precipice of inevitable defeat. "You matter, Davian," I whispered urgently. "Lily sees you, the real you. Let that guide you." But the man stepped forward again, closing the distance, and a deliberate steelness crept into his voice. "If you proceed down this path, you will be left with nothing. Remember who you are, what I've done for you. This is not the life for you." At the mention of his sacrifices, I saw the briefest tremor flit across Davian's expression, an echo of guilt crashing against the newfound desire for autonomy. His eyes glanced away, and I could almost see the chains reappearing, tightening their grip around his heart. "Don't let him do this to you," I pleaded again, my heart racing as the moments spiraled precariously. "Whatever they have over you, it doesn't define you enough." The man shouted, his patience wearing thin. "You'll never escape them. It's all you've ever known. Your entire existence is constructed around pleasing others." Lily stepped forward, unafraid, looking up at Davian with wide, earnest eyes filled with the unwavering truth of childhood belief. "You can change. I know you can. You can be happy." In that heartbeat, time fractured. Those heavy words hung in the air, suspended between the enormity of expectation and unyielding hope. The frail tether connecting Davian to the weight of the man's claim seemed like it might snap, leaving him free to soar or plunge into despair. Fleeting seconds passed, and Davian's gaze shifted between the flickering warmth in Lily's eyes and the dark authority of the man. The breath caught in my throat as I held space for him, almost willing him to recognize that he was not alone. Then, just as it appeared he might reclaim his desire for happiness, the man spoke again, now with a sneer that dripped with menace. "Choose wisely, Davian. You have always been good at playing the game. Don't be foolish." And with that, it felt as if a line had been drawn in the sand. As if the weight of loyalty sharply contoured into the shape of a single decision, a choice that could define the contours of his life forever. Within the silence that hung thick, I felt a deep tremor of fear pulse through me. Was it too late? Had I lost him before he even dared to leave the fortress of his past? I watched, breath halted, as Davian's eyes glistened, flashing an unmistakable mix of regret and defiance. Was it the glint of escaping hope that shone in his gaze? But then, the man stepped even closer, his voice a shark's whisper. "If you walk away, you do so without the comfort of safety. Remember who built your world, who sacrificed everything for you." In a split second, it became overwhelming. The darkness tugging at the fabric of his heart was insidious, his past a relentless shadow that loomed larger with every breath. Just at the edge of my grasp for him, I felt it beginning to unravel. The choice awaited, quavering in the shadows. I could feel his heart racing, and it struck me. I had stood witness to the flickering light of hope for a fleeting moment, yet the darkness was relentless. Then, just as I sensed the weight of inevitability closing in, Davian's expression shifted. A newfound resolve rippled across his features, and in that moment, I felt the tremors of awakening, ready to create his own path. But before he could speak, a shriek pierced the night, a voice I recognized all too well, reverberating dread through me. "Davian! Get back here!" My heart sank even further as I turned toward the direction of the voice, recognizing it instantly. In the blink of an eye, a figure materialized, and my breath caught. My mind spun with questions that refused to be articulated as I braced myself for what was to come. The threads of our hopes and fears lay before us, trembling as the night unfurled its secrets, but could we hold on to the slender strands of hope when the shadows threatened to consume the light? The air shifted yet again, heavy with the weight of the unexpected figure approaching us. As clarity came, I felt an icy dread blossom in my chest. It was Marianne, Davian's mother, her face a mask of worry architecture around the lines of a once vibrant woman now marred by years of turmoil and family obligations. "Davian!" she cried, eyes wide with panic, catching the tail end of our delicate standoff. I watched as her fear cascaded into the space between us, threatening to extinguish the flicker of hope we had fought so desperately to kindle. Lily's innocent laughter dissolved into silence as she took a hesitant step back, observing the drama unfolding around her. The clarity in her eyes dimmed, and for a fleeting moment, she seemed to comprehend the unsaid, an inkling of the burdens that weighed down those she loved. "Why are you here?" Davian's voice dripped with remnants of frustration, echoing a past he had tried so hard to escape. "Have you come to reinforce his designs on my life?" Marianne's expression fractured, and I saw the pain etched on her features. "I came to find you, Davian. They want you. They threaten everything we've built for you. You don't understand the lengths they'll go to, but you can't fight them alone." In her voice, a mixture of desperation and maternal instinct coursed a chronic ache molded from a lifetime of conditional love shadowed by duty. I could see Davian wrestling with the weight of her words, the flicker of hope colliding violently with the fear of familial loyalty. "Enough!" the man interjected, his voice shaping a boundary around our collective turmoil. "You've meddled long enough, Marianne. This isn't your decision to make. You've failed him, and now it's time for him to embrace the reality." "Isn't that right, Davian?" In that instant, the world around us felt impossibly fragile, as if we were teetering on a precipice. Davian's heart raced wildly, the pulse of each uncertainty ricocheting off the walls of his mind as his eyes darted between the forces that held him captive, a mother's love premiering against the chains of obligation, with the man symbolizing the weight of expectation tethering him to a fate he neither wanted nor deserved. "Davian, please." Marianne's voice softened, seeking to break through the walls of established sorrow. "You have a choice, but you can't let them dictate it for you. You are not the failures of your father's choices, you are so much more." I held my breath, waiting for him to recognize the strength Marianne was offering, not just the chains of her past, but the comfort of unconditional love that had survived storms he, in his rebellion, had tried to evade. "Why should I believe you?" His words hung in the air, wrought with bitterness and skepticism. "Why should I trust anything when you've always run back to him? You've never believed in me enough to say no." The man's sneer curled like smoke, coiling around the uncertainty churning within Davian. "She's right about one thing, you have choices, but you need to accept your place within the narrative." But as those words sank in, I saw a glimmer of defiance in Davian's eyes and a flicker of resilience in his posture. Was it possible? Had he finally begun to break free from the oppressive legacy that sought to bind him? Marianne stepped forward, a vulnerable plea woven within her frantic gestures. "You can forge your own path. I know it's daunting, your past is a stone around your neck. But I believe in you more than I've ever let on. Please don't let him convince you otherwise." And then it happened, a moment of connectivity as Davian's gaze lifted towards his mother, the threads of their shared pain twining together. Perhaps even the shadows of his past were beginning to reshape under the light of newfound understanding, yet, the man remained unyielding, drawing nearer, his breath a storm of temptation and intimidation. "You think she's your ally, Davian? She is but a ghost from the past, grasping at shadows that can never be. You are destined for something far greater, something that will eclipse all this emotional farce. Leave him alone." I shouted, the fight in me roaring to match the tempest brewing around us. "You don't get to define him any longer. We are not faint wisps on your canvas." Without breaking the gaze that held me captive, the man fired back, "You think your love can shield him? He can't escape the truth of who he is, who he's meant to be. And you," he pointed sharply, "you are merely a distraction." That I and the flurry of vulnerability and the weathered dreams of longing, the choices pooled around Davian like a dark sea of consequence. I felt helplessness wash over me, but I sensed Davian shuddering, grappling with the gravity of his own choices. Then, as if struck by a sudden idea, "Lily, her small voice breaking through the turmoil, said, "I believe in you, Davian. If you want to be happy, you can be. You're not just what they say." Her eyes glimmered, a beacon of truth emanating from the heart of innocence. A moment of silence settled over us, fragile but vibrant, igniting the kindling of choice where once lay despair. My heart raced, longing for Davian's decision, praying he could weave his aspirations into the fabric of his destiny, but just as clarity bore down upon his resolve, another voice slipped stealthily into our midst, a figure cloaked in shadows now stepping into the electric space before us. My heart plummeted as recognition washed over me, cold and suffocating. It was her, Tara, Davian's sister, seemingly appearing from nowhere, a valid entity grounded in all our complex heritage. With her presence, a tidal wave of implications washed over me, and I sensed that the very foundations of our fragile hope might soon come crashing down. "What's happening here?" she asked, poised between my rising fear and the resonance of unsaid truths, ready to ignite the latent emotions pulsing in the air. And with her arrival, I knew the course of our engagement stood to change irrevocably. The threads of our spirits were now intertwined in ways I could barely comprehend. Would the light we grasped so tightly hold, or would it implode under the relentless pressure of our realities? Only the hard decision loomed ahead, and the storm of our choices surged. Somehow, a new day would rise from this, but at what cost? The tension in the air thickened as Tara surveyed our group, her eyes racing from one familiar face to another. Each second felt like an eternity as I watched the layers of perplexity crumple across Davian's brow. It was as if the moment of hard-won understanding teetered on the edge of a cliff, ready to fall into a void of unspoken fears and harsh realities. "What are you doing here, Tara?" Davian's tone was a fragile balance of annoyance and concern, his gaze flickering between his mother and sister, each a living testament to his complex lineage. "I could ask you the same," she replied, arms crossing defensively. A powerful silence wrapped around her, the silence of too many conversations left unsaid. "Mother, why do you keep interfering?" Marianne's face twisted with an expression of exasperation. "Because, Tara, he deserves the chance to choose for himself, not to be bound by the past like I was." "But what if he makes the wrong choice?" Tara responded, the weight of her concern palpable, laced with an underlying fear, the same dread that had loomed over our gathering like a looming shadow. "It's not about right and wrong, it's about freedom," Marianne countered, desperation lacing her voice as she stepped closer to Davian. "He has to find his own way, even if that terrifies us." I looked at Davian, the flickering hope in his eyes battling against the swell of frustration, confusion, and the unbearable legacy that his family carried like a heavy shroud. All of this had erupted. Remember this moment, setting the stage for backstories that never quite settled before and now surged forward like an avalanche, threatening to crush him under its weight. Suddenly, Davian stood taller, grounding himself against the backdrop of our stormy confrontation. "But what if my choice isn't enough?" he shouted, his voice quaking as it filled the void left by uncertainty. "What if I disappoint all of you? I won't be the son you wanted, or the brother you needed." A suffocating silence fell again, heavy as the unacknowledged truths hovered between us. I can feel the broken pieces of each of their hearts, glistening yet jagged with the remnants of hope and regret. Then Lily's voice rang out again, cutting through the darkness that had spread like a thick fog. "You're already enough, Davian. Just be you. That's who we all love." Her words showered warmth into the icy atmosphere. It felt as though the tenderness of innocence somehow penetrated the barriers built by tumultuous legacies. I caught a glimpse of tears in Tara's eyes, reflecting a flicker of understanding, even amidst the tempest of complex emotions swirling around us. "Lily's right," I added, my heart aching for the young ones grappling with emotions they shouldn't have to navigate. "You won't ever disappoint us if you choose to be true to yourself. We don't want you to be someone you're not in hopes of becoming the son or brother they expect. We want you whole, unbound." As the words settled softly over Davian's shoulders, I saw him take a shuddering breath, as if a weight momentarily lifted from his chest. In that moment, the closeness of our circle felt sacred, a fragile sanctuary amidst the brewing storm. But Tara, still simmering with a mix of anger and disappointment, interrupted again. "And what if you don't choose wisely, Davian? What if you end up just like him? A shiver ran through all of us at the mention of their father. It was as if the dark clouds above us thickened, darkening our shared moment of hope with an ominous threat. Davian clenched his fists, wrestling the emotions that now flooded him. You have to choose wisely. You can't throw away everything we've endured, Tara continued, her voice trembling. We're not just protecting you or protecting what's left of us, the words hammered unrelenting against my heart, another layer of complexity thrown into the fold. The tumultuous past clashing violently with the nascent dreams of an uncertain future, each echoing heart was trapped within this interconnected web of desperation, regret, and agonizing love. I know, Davian murmured, the heaviness of his own realizations crashing onto him like waves against a shore. But all I've ever wanted was to be free, to be me. What if I fail at that? To be free, Marianne whispered, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears, is to brave failure. Your heart must lead the way, even if the path is fraught with risks. But before Davian could respond, another unexpected voice broke through the charged atmosphere, silencing our collective thoughts. It was a voice from my past, one I feared would send ripples of despair through our fragile assembly. Davian, he said, stepping forward from the shadows. Lucas, a shadowy figure from our shared history and a part of the nightmare we sought to escape. You think you can escape your fate? You are more entwined with your father's legacy than you'll ever know. Fear bloomed in Davian's eyes as recognition washed over him. The delicate strands of hope we had woven began to fray, the shadows of his past beckoning him back into the choking embrace of destiny. Get away from him! I shouted, instinctively stepping between Davian and the man who had come to shatter our moment of connection. But it was too late, the dark shadows of fate were creeping back in, threatening to swallow us into a chasm of despair. As we stood there, hearts pounding and emotions running raw, it became painfully clear, the true storm was only just beginning. Stripped of measures to shield our fragile resolve, we faced a new realism, a new dimension of peril layered upon every choice we grappled with, and just as it seemed the suffocating darkness would engulf us completely, Lily tugged on my sleeve, her innocent eyes wide with resolve. There was a fire within her I hadn't noticed before, ready to battle the impending darkness. Together, we'll show them, she declared, her small voice unwavering through the turbulence. It was then I knew that even in our most fragile moments, light could break through the darkest of narrative if only we allowed it. The moments that followed felt unreal, as if time had slowed, stretching out each second into minutes. The weight of uncertainty hung thick in the air between us. Lucas' challenge loomed over Davian like a black storm cloud, and I instinctively felt the adrenaline coursing through my veins. Yet in the tumult, Lily's defiance shone as a beacon, a guide amidst the chaos. Don't let him control your destiny, Davian. Lily repeated, her voice now a fervent plea, her small form standing resolutely before the larger backdrop of tangled family legacies. You are stronger than him. You are not your father. Her words pierced through the swirling shadows of doubt. I saw Davian wrestle with their truth. A flicker of rebellion sparked in his eyes, igniting embers in the corners of his heart that had dimmed under the weight of expectation. You're right, he finally muttered, almost to himself, yet the determination in his voice battled the disquietude. I have to choose for me, but Lucas chuckled, a dark and haunting sound that echoed eerily in the confined space. Choosing for yourself can lead to your undoing, Davian. The past is a relentless predator. It doesn't forget, and it doesn't let go. With each word, my heart sank further, grappling with the agony of his insinuation. I could feel Marianne stiffening, the realization that her decision to protect her son might be unraveled by the very thread she had thought to sever. The essence of our unity felt vulnerable, standing on the precipice of turmoil. I know what my father did, Davian said, anger swelling within him, igniting a fire that had smoldered for far too long. But I'm not him. I won't let his choices dictate my life. I wanted to believe him, I wanted to breathe in that bravery, but how could I ignore the gnawing sense of trepidation that settled, insidious, in my core? Lucas shifted, taking a step closer, filling the air with a predatory tension. You're too late, boy. You already bear his name and all the weight it carries will follow you, no matter where you run. Suddenly, a deeper sentiment began to resonate within me, that if we were ever to dismantle the chains of our ancestry, we had to confront those chained to our history, even if it made our hearts quake. "You have no power here, Lucas," I declared, my voice cracking but resolute. "You're a figment of fear, and Davian will break free." The challenge was met with a scoff, as if I were voice lost amongst the tempest. Bravery doesn't remove the shackles, it merely proves how foolish a heart can be in its quest for freedom. Davian, his expression shifting between defiance and uncertainty, cast a glance at Tara, whose defiance was pierced by a thread of fear. "Tara," he said softly, "what if I fail? What if I let all of us down?" Tara's expression softened, pride colliding with worry as it coalesced into empathy. "You won't let anyone down by being yourself, Davian," she said through a wobbly breath. "Just promise me you'll think carefully. The past is a seductive whisper. Don't let it drown out your voice." The rich authenticity of Tara's words broke Lucas' hold, sparking a connection between them that blossomed into a fragile hope. They were still siblings, tethered to one another by shared struggles, bound by a lineage that might have sullied them but also provided strength. "Together, we can face anything," Lily encouraged, innocence shining fiercely in her resolve. "You just have to trust each other." As the tension thickened with silence, Davian's gaze ignited, a newfound allure shimmering in his eyes. "If I face this, I'll do it my way, me choice. It has to be my choice." Lucas recoiled slightly, shadows flickering across his face as doubts lined his features for a moment. But they were fleeting, overshadowed almost instantly by a smirk, predatory and insidious. "You think it's that easy? You haven't even begun to see the repercussions of defiance. Just wait." A pulse of dread coursed through me. Lucas seemed to sway between menace and dread, a harbinger of disaster that loomed fresh upon us. "What do you mean?" Davian demanded, anger sharpening the corners of his voice. With that, Lucas stepped back into the shadows, a ghost in the wind, but the weight of his words lay heavy in the air. "Sometimes, there is blood to be paid when you break the chains." The implication chilled me to the core. As I looked at Davian, a cold wave of unease threatened to drown the fragile embers of hope that burnt within him. "You can't lose your way. Not now. Not ever." Yet as those words hung weightless, the ominous shadows would not release their grip, tightening once more around the fragile resolution of our makeshift family. I could see Tara's combativeness waver, her fierce resolve taking a back seat to her rising fear. "If it comes to that, I will protect you, Davian," she vowed, her voice trembling yet unyielding. "We stand together, with those threads binding us tighter." I knew an elemental truth we could not ignore: the stakes were rising, and our confrontation with darkness would demand sacrifices we weren't ready to make. With each choice, the complexities of our lives unwound before us, leading us toward a cliff's edge draped in shadow. As I turned to face Davian once more, the tears welling in my eyes reflected more than fear, they echoed a promise binding us against the swirling tide of fate. There would be more we would have to endure, more pain to unveil before the final light pierced this encroaching darkness. But before I could grasp that flickering hope, a chilling laugh broke through the tension, a sound that echoed with victory and malignancy, a curtain pulling back to reveal the heart of our struggle. We were still fighting, but the battle had only just begun, and before us lay an uncertain road, one that could lead either to freedom or to loss, and beneath the weight of our history, the darkness only grew heavier. The air was electric, charged with a mix of fear and determination. Davian stood amid the unfolding chaos, his shoulders squared, but the shadows stretched long, gnawing at the edges of his resolve. I could see Tara's hand inching toward his, her fingers brushing against his in a gesture of silent solidarity. It was a small moment, but significant, a reminder that although they were entangled in a web of legacy and expectation, they still held the power to choose their connections. "What happens now?" Davian's question hung in the air, trembling with potential. As he turned to face each of us in the dim light, I felt a surge of protectiveness. No matter the outcome, we were in this together. Lucas' voice slithered back into our thoughts, dark and foreboding. "What happens now is entirely up to you, Davian. But know this, history has a way of repeating itself. Keep your enemy close." The uncertainty was suffocating, wrapping around us like tendrils of smoke. Yet there was something beyond the fear, something that flickered in Davian's gaze, a stubborn light that wouldn't go out. As the moments ticked by, I sensed movement in the corners of my mind, jostling loose memories of my own struggles against the shadows of my past. Just as I was lost in thought, a soft cry echoed from the shadows, pulling us back into the present. Lily, wide-eyed and trembling, stepped forward. The firelight illuminated her delicate features, and her face, usually imbued with innocent illumination, now echoed determination masked with vulnerability. We can't let fear win. Fear is often a greater enemy than those we face, I murmured, wishing I could shield her from the tumult that unfolded around us. But it doesn't have to dictate our actions, but what if it's too late? She forced out, imploring each of us with that haunting question. It was as if the words had been dredged from my soul, the same worry I carried. What if breaking free means losing everything and everyone we love? My heart ached at her display of innocence challenged by the turmoil surrounding us. Well, find a way to stand firm together, I replied, gripping her shoulder gently, my gaze steady with conviction. The fleeting glint of hope had to remain unfaltering, even in the face of uncertainty. Just then, a flicker of movement caught my eye, and there, emerging unexpectedly, was Marianne. She stepped forward with a purposeful grace, her composure calm, but her eyes were ablaze with fierce affection for Davian. You are not alone in this, my love, she murmured, reaching for his hands. Remember the strength that lies in our choices. Standing together, amid the rising storm, it was a moment that transcended the depth of our fears. Here was a mother's unwavering love, willing to navigate the treacherous terrain with her son by her side. I won't let our past dictate our future, Davian declared, his voice steadying with each word, yet I caught the tremor beneath the surface. He turned his eyes toward Tara, Lily, and finally, may a silent plea for solidarity resonated in him. Then we stand together, Tara affirmed, her hand now fully grasping Davian's, as if their marriage of strength could fortify against whatever lay ahead. A soft murmur of agreement swept through us, wrapping our intertwined voices around the burgeoning resolve growing within our circle. It wasn't the answer to Lucas' taunts, nor was it the shattering of our inherited legacies. It was simply a promise, a whisper of resilience that dared to rise against a cacophony of doubt. But suddenly, a crackling sound broke our fragile moment. The shadows danced around us, stirring as Lucas' laughter erupted once more, this time louder, more victorious. How touching! He cooed, stepping back into the circle of light. Really, it's almost adorable how you think your bond will protect you. The smile on his face was pure malice, a reflection of the glee he took in our struggle. You think you have the will to change your destinies? Remember, Davian, every choice has a price. Before I could retort, the ground trembled beneath us, and a flicker of panic ignited within me. Lucas raised an arm, and the sense of impending dread washed over us, an unshackled threat, unleashed from the murky depths of our history. Let's see just how far you're willing to go to protect one another, he taunted, and with a swift motion, the shadows drew closer, dragging us toward dark unknowns that lay just beyond the sphere of light. Instinct kicked in, panic washed over me, a primal fear for everyone I held dear. Run! I screamed, the urgency propelling me into action as the shadows twisted, reaching out like claws determined to shred the fabric of what we fought for. But amidst our fleeing hearts, a sudden scream pierced through the air, sharp and harrowing, from the direction of where Lily had stood, her small frame now engulfed by the fabric of Lucas' dark magic. In that moment, staring into the swirling void, realization crashed over me like a winter storm. There were forces at play far beyond what we could understand, and we were perilously close to unraveling it all. Lily! Davian's voice cracked with desperation as the abyss loomed around us, a stark reminder of what we had to lose, and as I reached for the threads of hope within my heart, I understood, we had to confront our past, even if it meant risking everything to save one fleeting ray of light in the encroaching darkness. The battle was far from over, and as the echoes of our loyalties pulled us into the abyss, I could only pray that hope had enough strength to endure the tempest. The air was thick with despair, and the shadows loomed like dark apparitions threatening to swallow us whole. My heart raced, caught between the trembling fear for Lily and the nagging sense of urgency that pulsed through my veins. The swirling void at the edge of our light felt alive, breathing in anticipation of the chaos that was about to unfold. Lily. Davian's voice broke, raw and anguished as he surged forward, propelled by a need that could not be contained. The sight of his desperation scraped against my heart like jagged glass. I faltered for a moment, suddenly aware of my own inadequacies, my inability to shield this fragile little light from the darkness that hungered for her. Mariana's grip tightened on my arm, her eyes reflecting the same horror I felt. "We can't lose her," she cried, her voice pooling with an ocean of motherly fear. Even amidst the dread, a flicker of fierce determination ignited within me. I had to do something. We all did. "Listen to me," I shouted above the crackling chaos. "We need to counteract his power. We have to draw strength from each other." Encouraging thoughts threaded through my mind, intertwining with memories of moments spent fostering bonds in the harshest landscapes of life. I could visualize us casting a protective barrier around Lily, enveloping her in our collective love and hope. For a fragile instant, silence seemed to echo our desperation. Then, like synchronized dancers, each of us reached out, forming a handhold that connected us. Tara grasped Davian's hand, who locked eyes with Marianne, and I gripped Tara's other hand. In that moment, the warmth of our bond wrapped around us, cocooning our intense fear in a shroud of resilience. "On my count," Davian commanded, his voice regaining a semblance of authority. I could see the fire ignite in his eyes, a stark contrast to the shadows closing in around us. 3, 2, 1, together, we channeled our collective will into the void, hoping to break through the iron grip of Lucas' darkness. I could feel the electric pull of our camaraderie amplifying. It was like pumping air into a deflated balloon, each breath filled with defiance against the menacing threat. But instead of retreating, the shadows twisted, morphing under the pressure of our unity, and with a guttural growl, Lucas laughed, the sound a wicked symphony that reverberated through the air. "Such sweet delusions you cling to. Do you think this pathetic little spell can hold against the reality of your fates?" I felt our energy stutter, doubt creeping into the edges of our resolve. But Lily's terrified cry echoed in my mind like a siren song, urging me to push through the storm of resistance. "We can't let him win," I called out, amplifying the bonds we shared. "We have to believe. This is our fight." In that moment, as if summoned by my pleas, a shimmer of light ignited at the core of our circle, rivaling the darkness that threatened to engulf us. Tara's eyes widened, sparkling with a glimmer of hope as the light began to expand, encircling us. "Look!" she gasped, pulling Davian's gaze towards the brilliance forming. Hope surged through my chest, even against the backdrop of uncertainty. Perhaps our unity truly had the power to illuminate the shadows. "Lily, hold on!" Davian shouted, straining as he extended his reach toward the bubbling light. "We're coming for you. Stay strong." But just as the light inched closer, illuminating a path through the encroaching darkness, a sharp cry shuddered against the air, a sound not unlike a breaking heart. A mere flicker of emotion slipped through my defenses, and for just a moment, I understood the truth of Lucas' words: every choice carries its price. Then, as if to crystallize our collective fears, an explosion of shadows erupted, consuming the light. The ground below trembled violently, fracturing the moment we had so fiercely constructed. "Run!" I screamed again, but the shadows lunged forward with a fury that seemed unleashed from the abyss itself, and then, I saw it. A small glimmer, Lily's hand, emerging from the dark tendrils that clutched at her. She was still fighting, still reaching for us. My breath caught in my throat, eyes widening with renewed purpose. "Davian, we have to," but before I could finish my thought, darkness surged with a newfound intensity, and a cruel smile twisted Lucas' face. "Such a fun game to play, but time is running out." The shadows writhed, and with a desperate roar that seemed to slice through the very fabric of our resolve, they retracted, dragging Lily deeper into the dark, ever-reaching void. Laughter echoed, setting my heart into a frenzied beat, ripping through the remaining strands of hope I had clung to. No. Davian's voice fractured under the weight of devastation, his hand stretching toward her as if that alone could bridge the chasm expanding before us. Lily, just when it seemed the shadows would steal our last beam of light, a surge of warmth enveloped my heart, and I felt the urge to act upon the flicker that remained within me. It hadn't been extinguished, it had merely transformed into a burning ember, one that could ignite if only spurred into motion. That I took a step toward the abyss, pushing the anguish deep within, and a thought crystallized. Every heartbeat was a choice. The choice to love, to fight for the smallest rays of hope even if it cost me everything. Lily. We're coming. I shouted again, my voice stronger, wrapping around every ounce of affection for the bond we nurtured. But as the shadows howled, ready to consume what remained, a shocking revelation pierced through the storm, a realization that shivered down my spine. No. I whispered, heart pounding against the wall of dread, as the truth lay bare beneath the surface. We have to find her. There's no such thing as giving up. Yet, as hope threatened to bloom, an even darker laugh cut through our vortex of despair. Ah, but there's a price even for hope to blossom. Lucas crowed, and with a sudden swirl of shadows, I felt the tendrils latch on, yanking me backwards, and it struck me if I didn't heed the call buried within, I too would be ensnared in the dark chasm of despair. In that moment, as clarity struck like lightning during a storm, I realized the devastating cost may not just involve Lily. It threatened to crush each of us in its merciless grip. The ground surged beneath us. This was no longer mere chaos. It was a reckoning, a fevered game of sacrifice, our connections unraveling into the unknown. And as instinct screamed for survival, I felt the bonds weaving through our hearts beginning to fray, spiraling toward an ultimatum I never saw coming, leaving us teetering on the edge of inevitability. I blinked, lost in the chaos that engulfed us all, the shadows still clawing in search of Lily's light. Yet beneath the tumult, a sliver of clarity emerged, a way forward rooted not in our individual desires but in our shared love. It pulsed with urgency, propelling me toward the truth, that my daughter was not just a thread woven into the medical tapestry of our lives, she was the very fabric of hope that could mend our fragmented souls. Davian, look! I cried, my heart racing as I summoned every ounce of courage and determination. Remember the laughter. Remember the love that binds us. In that moment, I could feel the warmth of the glimmering light lingering in each of our hearts. We were stronger together, resilient even against the shadows that threatened to consume us. Don't let the darkness define you. Davian's eyes flared with recognition, a deep-seated understanding dawning upon him. He turned to Tara, then back to Lily as if she were somehow the key to unlocking all the potential shrouded within him. You're right. He shouted, voice rising above the chaos, defiance dawning in his tone. Together, we can break this cycle. With that declaration, I felt the electricity surge anew, the thread of connection between us strengthened, illuminating the encroaching darkness. Together, Marianne echoed softly, her maternal love enveloping us like a shield. Our past does not determine our future. And just like that, everything seemed to crystallize. Davian stepped forward, releasing his hold on the fear that had shackled him for so long. No more hiding. He declared, a fierce determination burning in his gaze as he faced the abyss. I choose my own path. I choose hope. The shadows hesitated for just a heartbeat, a faint flicker of uncertainty echoing through the air. We seized the moment, forging ahead as one, each of us grasping onto the fire of unity within us, the very essence that made us whole. Lily, hold on! I shouted, empowered by our joined spirits, as if casting a spell against the dark. I pushed toward the shadows, stretching my hand towards the remnants of light that flickered defiantly against the void. We're coming for you, sweetheart. A fierce wind whipped through us, a chaos of emotions swirling as our courage twisted with the shadows. Then everything shifted. An explosion of light burst from the core of our collective heart's resolve, banishing the creeping shadows that threatened to take her. The darkness recoiled. In that singular moment, I could see a luminous thread snaking through the shadows, reaching toward Lily. There! I gasped, urgency igniting within me. Grab hold! The world around us fell away, plunging into a kaleidoscope of colors as the light reached for her. I saw her small arms stretch, grasping for the warmth as it drew closer. Mommy! she shouted, and in that single, echoing cry, everything shifted. The darkness cracked under the weight of our love, our choice to fight. With a fierce tug, the shadows collapsed as the tendrils released their hold, retreating as Lily wedged herself onto our illuminated pathway. She beamed at us, small but fierce, as we coalesced, forming a circle of warmth around her. "I knew you'd come." Tears streamed down my face as I pulled her tight against me, the warmth of her innocence wrapping around my heart, creating an impenetrable shield against the darkness that had sought to consume us. The dim glow of the garden flickered back to life, and I looked around, gripped by disbelief and awe that somehow we had broken free. And then, as silence settled amongst us, I turned my gaze back to Lucas. There he stood, expression wavering between frustration and bewilderment. Almost as quickly as it formed, it crumbled, scattering in the wind like autumn leaves. "What have you done?" he hissed, his voice suddenly desperate, shaky as his hold on power slipped through his fingers. But now, in our circle of light, I felt unburdened. "We've decided that we are more than our pasts, more than the chains that held us," Davian declared, standing resolute beside me, empowered by our collective strength. "You cannot break what has already been forged in love. We choose hope." We all echoed together, a chorus resonating against the dark. With a final gasp, Lucas recoiled, shadows dissipating before us, melting away like snow under the sun. "This isn't over," he spat, fleeing into the labyrinthine darkness, shadows swirling around him like the remnants of a nightmare fading into dawn. As his presence disappeared, I turned to face my daughter, seeing the glow of purity radiating from her very being. I knelt before Lily, cupping her face in my hands, wiping the remnants of fear from her cheeks. "You were so brave," I whispered, voice trembling. "You showed us that love conquers all." Davian knelt beside me, eyes glistening with unshed tears, understanding blooming between us like flowers breaking through concrete. "Together, we can face anything," he vowed, pressing our foreheads together as Tara joined in, wrapping her arms around both of us. That we were a tapestry, a mosaic woven from the threads of our spirits and resilience, ready to face whatever lay beyond this moment. I felt the swell of possibility rise like a tide, filled with the promise of healing and unwavering strength, and as I embraced my family, I understood, with a powerful ache in my heart, that sometimes it takes darkness to ignite the light we never knew we had. In that moment of stillness, I realized the beauty of our journey was not just in survival but in seizing every moment of love and connection that this fragile existence offers. As we stepped from the shadows and into the warmth of the new dawn, I held my daughter in my arms, feeling the pulse of hope reverberate through us. Standing there, I whispered the truth that had cemented our bond, a promise for the days to come: we will never let go of hope. And with that, we walked onward into the light, hearts ablaze, completely unshackled, ready for all the adventures yet to unfold before us.